Hey guys, it's Mrs. Yao, and I'm back with this week's edition of Scholastic News. Remember to follow along in your magazine as I read aloud, and if I'm going too fast, remember you can always pause. This week's Scholastic News is called Stronger Together. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. worked hard to make the world better, but he didn't do it alone. He teamed up with many other people. Right, go ahead and open up to the inside. Teamwork can change the world. As you read, think about what a team can do. When Dr. King was alive, some parts of our country had unfair and cruel laws. The laws said that black children and white children weren't allowed to go to the same schools. They weren't allowed to play in the same parks. This was called segregation. Dr. King and many others worked to change the unfair laws. They were a great team. What can they show us about teamwork? We are powerful together. It's hard for one person alone to change things, but people working together can make a big difference. All right, and before I read on the next page, on page 3, if you look up at the top of the page 2 where that photograph is, there is a caption above the photograph that says, Dr. King took part in many marches. All right, and then on page 3, thousands of people went on marches together. They walked down the streets. They held signs that said the laws should change. Sometimes they sang songs. People saw the marches on TV. The marches made them think the laws should be changed. The people talked to their leaders, and their leaders changed the laws. We have different roles. In a team, everyone has a role. Everyone has a job to do. It took a lot of work to make those big marches happen. Some people planned where the marchers would go. Some people made the signs people held. Some people made sandwiches so the marchers wouldn't be hungry. Most people at the marches were not famous like Dr. King, but everyone mattered. Everyone had an important role to help change the laws. We can disagree. Dr. King and his team agreed that the laws should be changed. They agreed that everyone should be treated fairly, but they didn't agree on everything. Sometimes they disagreed about the best ways to change the laws. Sometimes they argued. But they didn't quit. They took time to cool down, and they came back together to work as a team. It took a long time, but many of the unfair laws were changed. You can be part of a team too. You can work hard with others, and you can help change the world. And then down at the bottom of page 3, there's another photograph. And this is Dr. King right here in the photograph. It says, a family is a team too. Dr. King loved spending time with his family. And back to this photograph on page 2, this is Dr. King here in the middle. Okay, let's turn to the back page. Now on the back page this week you have a timeline. Remember, a timeline is like what we do in Domain. We've been doing it with Westward Expansion, where the events are placed on a line, a number line, and they go in order by the, in this case, they go in order by the year. Sometimes they'll be in order by the date, but they always go in order by what they happened. So the timeline is about Dr. King. It's Dr. King timeline. Read the timeline of Dr. King's life, then answer the questions. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to read the timeline to you. Follow along with me. In 1929, he was born. Who was born? Yes, Dr. King was born. Then in 1944, he started college. In 1953, he married Coretta Scott. In 1963, he went on a march in Washington, D.C. In 1965, he went on a march in Alabama. And then in 1968, he was killed. Okay, so when we're reading the questions, remember you're going to go back and you're going to look to find the event in the events listed and make sure you look for the year that they happened. If I go too fast, remember to pause. In which year did he start college? So you need to look over here and find the event that says when he started college and find the year. Was it 1929, 1944, or 1963? Which happened in 1953. So you need to come over here to 1953 and find out what the event says. He went on a march in Alabama, he was born, or he married Coretta Scott. Number 3, which of these happened after 1960? So you have to find 1960 over here and then find the events that happened after that. And you're going to look at these events to find which one happened after 1960. He was born, he went on a march in Alabama, or he married Coretta Scott. And number 4, in which year did he go on a march in Washington, D.C.? So you need to find the event listed in purple that shows when he went on a march in Washington, D.C. and look for the year. 1929, 1963, or 1993? All right, so now let's look at your reading quiz. Number 1, what is this article mostly about? So remember, we're talking about the whole entire story. What was it mostly about? How Dr. King marched. B, how Dr. King worked with his team to make change. C, Dr. King's favorite things to do with his family. Number 2, where did the marches happen? Remember, these are things where you can go back and you can look in the actual story and prove your answers. A, where did the marches happen? A, in people's houses. B, in the streets. Or C, at the playground. Number 3, how did people who were not at the marches learn about them? A, they read about them in books. B, they heard songs about the marches. Or C, they saw the marches on television. Go back in the story and prove your answer. Number 4, look at the picture at the bottom of page 3. What does it show? So you'll need to go back in your magazine, look at the bottom of page 3 and find the picture. And what does it show? A, Dr. King with his family. B, Dr. King at a concert. Or C, Dr. King on a march. And number 5, why didn't Dr. King and his team always agree? A, because they didn't get along. B, because they didn't know one another. Or C, because sometimes people have different ideas. Remember, you can prove your answers. All right, guys, make sure that you go back, prove your answers, make sure that you read very carefully. Even if you need to underline in your story on your magazine to prove your answer, that is a perfect strategy to use. All right, guys, I hope you have a great week. I'll see you when I see ya. Bye.